Good evening. Welcome to the Living in Utah live question and answer session here on Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. I be here every Thursday evening at the same time or channel. Opportunity to ask any kind of questions you want, whether it's on real estate, state of Utah, United States, you name it is going on. So do not hesitate to put a question on the screen, and I'll do my very best to notice it and respond to it. I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Utah, so that is what I do as a primary job, and I do YouTube. So YouTube does not make me this in Utah, I love this time of year. It's beautiful. We're 80 to 85 degrees every day. It's just beautiful out. I love this time of year. It's great. We are doing a little bit of a cold front. Monday, so the temperature's going to drop a little. How was your evening? My evening is great. This is probably one of the times in a few weeks that I have been home since about 30. Some evenings on Thursday when I come to do this at 8 o'clock, I'm literally running in the door, running down the street. So that's how it was the other evening. If it would have been Tuesday evening, I didn't get home till about 9:30. It was dark outside. Great opportunity. But how's everything where everyone else is? The state of Utah is doing good. In the news this week, it's actual national news. There's a girl out of Florida that is missing. They visited Utah on their excursion trip across the United States. They are looking for this young lady, and it is not looking good. So the boyfriend that she was with is back in Florida and not saying a word. It reads guilt everywhere you turn. So they both arrived out towards the West Coast, and somehow he ended up back in Florida and she did not. So been on the local news and on the national. I heard that he is up in Yellowstone. Probably is a hotel by the airport, and the FBI or the police have been searching that hotel. Possibly, maybe that was one of her last areas. Not too sure, but boyfriend is not talking. So, okay, best places to jet ski with RV. Do you think the market is going to crash or crash? City area? What area do you reckon it's safe, affordable, large lots, jobs, outdoor? Wow. On the last question, if you're that would be a tough one, but I think that as far as the northern part of the state, the southern part of the state, both have advantages and disadvantages. So I want to avoid maybe the southern part of the state due to the higher temperatures. It's not uncommon to have 110, 115 degree days. That's a great place, in my opinion. People camp there throughout the summer all the time. That's not my preference. My preference would be to camp there during the winter months when it is 70 degrees. So, and then in northern Utah, the best time to camp is during the summer months in northern Utah, especially if you head to the mountain areas. So anywhere that's a higher elevation, you will have daytime temperatures. Even when we have a 100-degree day on the valley floor to the mountain, and it'll be like 80 degrees or 82 or 83. Beautiful, and beautiful evenings. Nice, cool evenings, not cold, but cool evenings. That's my preference. The market is going to crash or correct in Salt Lake City. I don't see anything right now on the horizon that would cause a crash or correction in the United States. Utah is not the only state with increased prices. It's happening all across the states, or in most areas across the United States. If or when or ever interest rates do rise, I think that will slow the market and become more of a buyer's market. And nobody predict when that's going to happen, if that is going to happen. The other event that possibly could happen, not that I'm wishing for it to happen, is some major catastrophe. And when we look back at previous crashes, so like the last one in 08, 09, that was a financial crash. They were just against everybody. And I remember back then, and I was wondering myself how it was ever going to survive. There were so many adjustable rate mortgages going on back then. And I could see people's payments. They were like $1,300, but in 5 years, it was jumping to $2,000 or $1,800 and crazy things like that. So as far as I know, those fraudulent loans haven't been done. They've clamped down out of that. They really have clamped down on so they have systems in place to prevent some of that. When we look back, the crash before was during 9/11, and it wasn't a major crash like 08, 09, but it did correct the market. So if we have something in the world that happens like 9/11, it could turn market, no doubt. And like I say, I'm not wishing for that. It's not my desire that we have some catastrophe. But who knows what the future holds and might turn around. I do think that as we go into next year, and we're seeing it a little bit now in Utah, it's still a very hard market. Good quality properties are gone day one, day two, in most price ranges. You get above $1 million, they'll sit around just a little bit longer, but what we're seeing now is not so much of some of the crazy offers, the way above, like I lost one. It was a $450,000 home. Somebody come in at $500,000, $50,000 above. And I thought that was really high. We're not seeing that as much. We're still seeing above asking. We're seeing fewer people waiving things like the appraisal, the inspections, et cetera, et cetera. People are now for those, and they're not waiving those items. So, and that is a good thing in my mind. More of a steady market, more inventory market. That's where I see it long term, though, for Utah, long term. And this is what the experts all say. The market will continue to grow because our growth rate in Utah is projected to keep increasing year after year after year. And you need housing. We cannot build new housing fast enough. And in upcoming years, I don't see us building new housing fast enough during times either. And this is all stemmed back, and the crunch around the United States, a lot of it stems back to 08, 09. The building industry, we have to produce so many homes per year to keep up with population growth across the country. 08, 09, so many builders went out of business, stopped building. It literally got demolished. And even in 2010, 11, 12, 13, building was continuing, but not at the rate that it should have been. So we were losing hundreds of thousands of homes that should have been built just to keep up. And that has compiled year after year after year all across the country. So that has been that also is affecting the market. So, and the low interest rates too, historically low interest rates. There are people that I've worked with or that I know that possibly a few years ago could not have qualified for a home, and now they do. They can now afford it because the interest rates are lower. Their payments are lower. So, but people have entered the market. As far as areas that are safe, affordable, large lots, jobs, outdoors, let me key on two of those, the outdoors, the jobs, and the large lots. To get all three of those together is tough, is really, really tough. Your jobs in northern Utah is along the Wasatch Front. Logan, Utah up north, but also pretty much from Ogden, Utah down to Provo, Utah. So that whole corridor that goes up I-15. Trying to find a larger lot is very difficult. So find a larger lot in those areas that have jobs is difficult. And also, probably over the last 20 years, well, at least since, 30 years, 90s that I've noticed, most new construction lots are a third of an acre or a quarter of an acre. So gone are the 1 acre lots, 3/4 acre lots that they built them on. There are still some, and there have been that built, but you're seeing fewer and fewer as the years have gone by. When you get into some of your outlying areas, past Provo-Orem area or north of Ogden, you're seeing larger lots, but you're also getting further away from the job center hub Utah has. So that's kind of like a quick overall. Thinking of moving to Utah, Salt Lake City area from the Dallas, Fort Worth area. Looking around a house initially to like a job. What areas would you recommend? Well, I would recommend, and that's a tough question if you do not have a job already lined up. You really do want, I would not want to maybe live in Provo-Orem area and you get a job and you've got an hour-and-a-half commute each way back and forth when you could have rented, and vice versa. If you rent a place to Ogden area and you end up accepting a job in Provo-Orem area, that's quite a distance to go. So I would probably say, if you're not too sure, try to get as short of a lease as you can, so that if you do accept a job somewhere and do not like the commute, and your lease ends, you're looking to a place that would be closer to where you work, or maybe where you enjoy recreational activities or something like that. So if you could find a lease as short as possible, and you could always extend that lease, or, if you have to move to get closer to work, by all means. That's probably what I would look at. Okay, notice several cities are near track trains. Which cities are far away from train noise? Okay, good question. Good question. I have not had that question before. So the train runs north to south predominantly. And it is west of I-15. So it pretty much runs parallel with I-15 to the west. Salt Lake City, there are areas where it is just east of I-15. So either way, you're slightly east or slightly west, depending on where you're at throughout the whole corridor. Now, I lived next to a train track. Well, not really next to a train track, but I lived in a city that had the train track, and it was a Union Pacific line, so you had trains. Did not bother me because I was probably of a mile away. If I would leave the window open and not have anything turned on in my house, I could probably hear it in the distance. So I would say don't be too worried about the train tracks. But where there is a train track, probably give yourself maybe a quarter of a mile away, and you probably will not hear the train at all. So that's just my thinking. But most cities have a train track, runs north to south. So the further, or if you want cities that are absolutely not, the further you go onto the east side up towards the mountain. So anywhere along the Wasatch Front that is the east benches of Salt Lake City, east benches of Provo, east benches of Layton, Kaysville, Ogden, you will be quite a distance away from a train track. Quite away. So that would be the furthest. Great questions. So also happened, or some things that happened in the news this week here. We have a new airport. It has now officially been open for 1 year. New international airport, expanding. It was needed. It was needed in Utah. The tourism and the amount of people who travel needed a new airport. They built a new one. There's a lot of complaints about the new airport. I have not personally flown out of the new airport, so not experienced any of these things, but they're very long tunnels or very long terminals. And they have one tunnel, I believe, that connects the two. So it's quite the walk down and kind of like a U shape to get to certain flights. And people are complaining about the length. There's supposed to be improving that. They're going to put another tunnel in or two or something. But what I was told from someone was the old airport that we had, when the planes would come into the terminal, it was kind of like a U shape. And the planes would come in, have to back out, then get on taxiway and leave. They said that there were numerous times that planes would have to sit while a plane backed out or came in before they could then unload. And when I thought about it, there's many times that I've sat on the tarmac and they are actually waiting for an opening, and that's probably what they're referring to. So they made these long terminals so that planes can just pull right in, kind of like a parking lot. They pull right in and then they can pull right out while other planes are pulling in. That was the design idea of the airport. So there's two long terminals, and I guess planes go on both sides of the terminals. So new airport. Jim, thanks. I'd like to talk on the phone to discuss details of my situation. Can I call the net post? Yeah, that's my number. By all means, yeah, call me sometime from tomorrow onwards. So that would be great. I go to bed early. I get up real early. I wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning. So I go to bed early. I'm not a person that stays up to 12 in the morning. Not by any means. So, but yeah, you're welcome to call me and yeah, I'll have a conversation with you. No problem. No problem. Another thing that I thought was interesting in the news, and I was not aware of this, that the University of Utah, their video game design program is the third best in the nation. I was really surprised about that. I have not heard of that before. They get very, very high marks for their medical program, their nursing program, et cetera, et cetera. But I didn't realize they have a video design program, and it's third in the nation. I'm going to have to nephew that. He just started college this year, and he wants to be a computer programmer. So I don't know if he's aware of that. Thanks. What tips do you recommend in terms of buying a house before relocating to the state? I'm dependent on the sale of my current house before buying in Utah. Okay, so what I do with 98%, 99% of the people that I work with that are out of state, once we have established an area, or they have come out here for, some people will come out for a visit and drive through some areas. And some people, you know, they know they're getting a job right here, so they want to be in a certain area. So, or they want to be in a certain school district. What I'm doing with 90, because most homes hits a lot. It's on the market today. People are viewing it today. Tomorrow offers are received. If you fly out again, you missed the home. Literally missed the home. So I am going. So I have a list that goes. I have two options. One is a list that goes out daily of all new homes that have hit the market in your particular criteria. So if you're in a particular county and a particular price range, you would receive one email per day. So whatever came out today on the market, tomorrow you'd receive that email, and you can go through the email and you can see what you like. Call me on the phone, say, hey, Mike, I'm interested in this house. Option number two with that list is I can hook you directly into my MLS. where you will receive email alerts on new listings throughout the day. The disadvantage with that list, or the number one complaint I get with that, is people just feel overwhelmed because they could get 8, 10, 12 emails a day, maybe. Especially people who have it like on their phone, saying they have an email alert. It drives crazy. Bing, 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 as they're trying to do their job, et cetera, et cetera. So it's more, you're getting the info a little bit quicker. So you would be receiving it all today as opposed to receiving it tomorrow. Some people will start out with the other list where they get the next day, and then once they finally get it dialed in that they're ready to start shopping and look, they'll then swap over to give them to the MLS one. They'll get stuff daily. So I usually do is they'll call me on the phone or send me a text, and Mike, I'm interested in this house. So I go out there with the same video equipment that I do all my videos with, and I videotape the house, and I take my phone with me too. So if I can reach you via FaceTime, then I hold the phone in one hand and the camera in the other hand, and I tour the whole home and try to get the whole home so that you have it instantly live to you. And then when I get home, I'll download it to a YouTube format and give you a link that you can share with friends, family, and view it again if there's something that possibly that you remember, if the had 4 shelves or shelves, et cetera, et cetera. It's handy if I can reach somebody via FaceTime and do that. Maybe I cover something and didn't quite catch something, or maybe they wanted to know what brand dishwasher was there. At the moment, I can turn and I can take a closer video shot of it. Usually 10 to 15 minutes, rather long, just raw video. A commentary is normally in it. I try to point out as much about the home that I can, if I notice scratch, whatever. So we usually will download that, and people can view it and then determine if they want to place an offer, and then we can go from there. And I could talk about how we do it from that point on to also give you some protection along the way. That's how I'm doing most of them. And actually, that route is what I am doing for some people that are living right here in Utah. They get a little bit burnt out with going from house to house and putting offers in and not getting accepted. So after a little bit, they're like, just videotape it for me, Mike. I'll watch it. If I like it, we'll put an offer in, and then we'll go see the house. So I'm doing that with a lot of people in Utah also. I am an out-of-work computer programmer, not gaming. Hard time finding a job here. Plus, I want to move to Utah for the outdoor activities that do not exist here. Well, you're an expert on computer programming, but it's my understanding that they are hiring about everywhere. So a couple places to look would be the companies that are just south of Salt Lake City. We call it slopes. There is a lot of companies that have moved in there. If you look at, I think it's the Provo Orm video that I did, I actually researched and I read all that I could find, and it must have been 50 or 100 companies. The other place to look would be with the defense contractors at Hill Air Force Base. We have huge amount of defense contractors, L3 Communications. They're actually based out of Salt Lake City. Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman. And these are just the big companies that I know about. And there are a lot of smaller companies. My sister-in-law works for a company that does work for the government, and they're a smaller company that most have not heard of. But so there's a lot of small companies, and there's also a lot of big companies looking for help. And I believe they are looking for computer programmers. That's the 2 areas I would look. So, and what I'm being told about the defense contractors, they cannot get workers. So, all right, Jim, I'd like to take advantage of the housing market here before the bubble bursts and get to Utah. Correct. Not too sure what state you're in right now, Jim, but John, I recently visited towards Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, Lehi, American Fork. Which of those areas would you recommend? Well, quite honestly, I would take any of the four. What I would probably, I think you'll be happy in all four of those areas. Those four areas are very similar. It's going to be a matter of finding the home that you like. And if you find it in American Fork, I would take it. If you find it in Eagle Mountain, I would take it. So depending on, your preference for a home style and design and bedrooms and bath and color schemes, I would look at all four areas. And when you find the home, I think you'll be happy in any of those four cities. So no real pros and cons out there. Probably the only con that I personally do not like is it gets a little windy out there sometimes. So that would be the only thing that I could say, and that's digging deep. That's digging on trying to find like a negative or something like that. There are some days when it can be a little bit. It can be a little bit more windy than what I like. So. But areas, great areas, especially if you work in that area. So it worked out great. Cool. It has been half an hour. Great questions this evening. Really appreciate that there. Make my brain think a little bit. But yeah, great area. Great area. I think you'll be happy. So I can real quickly, let's just take a look there for anybody who is visiting us from another state and you're curious about what we were talking about. I'll give you a quick tour that we are referring to. So we've got Eagle Mountain right here. So you've got Eagle Mountain. I had to zoom in a little more to actually pull up. But Saratoga Springs is right here also. And then American Fork is over here. And when I'm talking winds, you don't get much in the American Fork area. It's more Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs area. This area here that I noticed that it's more windy in some other parts of the state. And American Fork and Lehi is here next to I-15. Now, if I had to say another con, as I'm thinking about that, if are a person who likes the amenities of being a corner to a gas station, a restaurant, movie theater, et cetera, then you would probably want the Lehi American Fork area as opposed to Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs. There is some amenities out this area, but nowhere near as much as along this whole area between American Fork, Lehi, Pleasant Grove, Orem. You will find a lot more amenities along those areas. But, if that's not a major consideration, then these are great areas. So, and in general, these areas out here are newer developed areas that have considerable amount of growth. Now there is growth in Lehi and American Fork, but these two areas out here are seeing some tremendous. So, and it's starting to expand too. Cedar Fork is getting busy. Fairfield is seeing growth. Yeah, it's throughout. Well, there's a quick little tour. And it also depends too on cons. Like if you are working, if you have to go into a job, and that would be something very important. If you have to travel to a job and it's in Draper or into Salt Lake City, I would probably do that drive. If you are choosing Eagle Mountain or Saratoga Springs, I would do that drive because with traffic and everything like that, some of those commutes are a little bit longer than if you were to make the commute from Lehi or American Fork. Now, if you have a job where you work from home, it really wouldn't matter. Or if you only have to go in 1 day a week or something like that, would definitely be a little bit different. So commuting time possibly depending on where, if you are working a job that you have to go, because it can be a little bit from Saratoga Springs or Eagle Mount to get to some areas, especially during rush hour traffic. So any more questions this evening before I wrap it up and call it an evening? Well, I thank everybody, and I will be back next in 1 week's time. Thank you.